When I first tried to network in the music industry, I got ghosted constantly. I assumed I was saying the wrong things, missing social cues, or just wasn't important enough. Looking back, none of that was true, but I didn't realize this until I was on the other side of the interaction. Not too long ago, a producer sent me a pack of beats on Dropbox and asked me to forward them to an artist I was working with. Even though this would mean forwarding someone else's beats and not just sending my own, I must have been in a good mood because I clicked on the message and I fully intended to do so. So here, interest wasn't the problem. Instead of a simple shareable link, he invited me as a collaborator in the folder, and Dropbox prompted me to log out of my account and back into another. That tiny inconvenience triggered something in my brain subconsciously. Continuing just didn't feel worth it to me, and I turned my phone off and went about my day. From the perspective of the other producer, I just ghosted him. But to me, I just continued on with the rest of my day. My interest hadn't changed, but that small friction made the process stop being automatic. If it had just been a simple shareable link, the easiest option would be just copy and paste the message forward. But since I had to go through these extra steps, the easiest option for me in that moment was just disengage. And that's actually how most ghosting situations happen. It's not about importance and it's not about effort, but it happens when you make saying yes require more effort than saying nothing at all. This isn't an issue with Dropbox. This is a property of human behavior. Every interaction you go through requires each person to give up some upfront cost, whether that's time, effort, or attention. And the moment that an interaction stops being automatic, most people won't just say no, but they won't say anything at all. Automatic actions don't actually feel like decisions at all. Open the folder, share the link, reply quickly. But once an interaction introduces friction, like extra steps, uncertainty, or implied commitment, the decision stops feeling automatic and it starts feeling like work. And between an option that feels like work and an option that requires nothing at all, most people don't spend time deliberating. They just pick the path of least resistance. And this is why ghosting feels so confusing, because from the outside, it looks like it's intentional, malicious, or even disrespectful. But from the inside, the person's just doing what's easiest for them in the moment. Once you understand this, you start seeing these patterns everywhere, especially in first messages. The most common first message genre that I see producers sending is the vague commitment ask. Some examples are, "Yo, let's work," or "Yo, let's connect. I'd love to work with you." These types of messages put all of the decision-making pressure on the recipient immediately. And it makes them think things like, work on what? And what does connect even mean? And sure, someone could reply, "Yeah, I'm down," but what does that actually lead to? Now they just agreed to something undefined and they're responsible for figuring out where it goes next? The cost is unclear, but the obligation isn't. Another really common first message I see is the micro pitch. "Hi, my name is Jake. I'm a music producer. I really like your music. Can I send you some beats?" On paper, this checks all the boxes. It's polite, it's respectful, and it may show that you actually listen to their music. But structurally, it still asks the person to do work up front, evaluating you, managing their next step, and deciding what they want to do with the situation. And when this does get a reply, it's often just an email address, and the same one that they send to dozens of other producers asking the same thing. At that point, you're no longer having a conversation, but you just entered a pile of completely replaceable beats. The last category is the backstory novel. The long paragraph explaining who you are, where you came from, why you're reaching out. Even when it's sincere, it does the same thing. It turns that first message into a reading assignment, and it just puts additional work on the recipient. And when engaging feels like effort, the easiest thing to do is just move on. Now listen, I want you to think about your closest friends. Like seriously, the ones you can count on for anything. Think about when you first met them. I bet you didn't walk up to them and just say, "Yo, let's be friends." You just don't really say that to strangers. Not because it's rude, but because it raises all these questions that they didn't sign up to answer. Things like, what does that mean? What does that require of me? And how much effort am I actually putting into this relationship? Instead, these friendships probably started the same way that automatic interactions do. This could be a comment about something you're both already present for, or a question about something you can tell they clearly care about. But these conversations don't require wondering where they're gonna go next. There's an ad? There's no commitment and no implied next step, just shared context, low effort, and room to grow naturally if it makes sense. When the first interaction aims for comfort and not commitment, people stay. When it asks for commitment before comfort, people disappear. This is the biggest mistake I see with people when they're networking. They go into every interaction trying to get a yes as soon as they possibly can. A yes to sending beats, a yes to sending loops, or even a yes to hopping on a call. But really the goal of these first interactions shouldn't be that commitment, it should be continuity and long-term thinking. When you stop pitching yourself and start making every interaction as easy as possible to stay in, something changes. You give the other person room to engage without pressure. Instead of thinking, what can I say to make this person want to work with me? Think about, how can I make this conversation as easy as possible to engage with? And when you remove that pressure, these conversations no longer feel like work. They feel open. And open interactions are the ones that people continuously come back to. Once I understood this, a lot of things clicked for me. Not just in music networking, but the way that people respond to messages, opportunities, and asks in general in all aspects of my life. Most people don't miss out on opportunities because they lack talent, confidence, or value. They lose out on them because the interaction felt just hard enough to abandon. So when you're reaching out, you're trying to network, I want you to stop thinking about what you can say and start thinking about what you shouldn't force. And if you take anything away from this video, let it be this. Stop going into these interactions thinking, how can I make them care? Go into them thinking, how can I make caring the easiest option? That's really not a question that I can answer in one video, but that's what this channel is about. How producers actually build leverage in today's market, what works, what doesn't, and how to stop competing in ways that are stacked against you. And if that way of thinking makes sense to you, make sure to subscribe because I'm right here talking about it every single week.